Okay, so Politico, you remember a couple of weeks ago, vast grief and rage broke out because Politico's Playbook had asked me to write the playbook one day. Now, that followed on Chris Hayes writing the playbook. Yamisha Alcindor from PBS, who's a far-left liberal. She had written the playbook. Don Lemon wrote the playbook after I did. Kara Swisher, who's a censorious, awful leftist columnist for the New York Times, she wrote the playbook. So I wrote the playbook because they wanted somebody on the right. So I wrote the playbook, and the basic point I made in Politico's playbook was the entire goal of the left seems to be to lump in everybody on the right with the Capitol rioters so they can then say everybody on the right is dangerous and ban them. Right? That was my entire point. That was the entire piece. People at Politico went nuts. They had a staff phone call with 225 members of the staff, most of them from the newsroom, because these are newsmakers. Right? These are the people who cover your journalism crew. They got very angry, and they shouted at the editors. But that didn't work, because the editors were like, you know what? We're going to have a lot of people from a lot of different sides of the political aisle, and you citing bad old tweets from 2012 that Shapiro's already explained multiple times, that's not going to do it. So what did they do? 100 staffers decided to go over the heads of the editors and directly to the publisher of Politico and whine about this. Amazing, amazing people. According to the Daily Beast, Maxwell Tawney, who's again one of these censorious types, would love to see nothing better than all of the folks on the right deplatformed ASAP. And always gets the scoop when far leftists decide that it's time to try to get somebody canceled. So here's what the Daily Beast reports. More than 100 Politico staffers signed onto a letter sent to publisher Robert Albritton expressing disgust with allowing right-wing firebrand Ben Shapiro to guest author one day's edition of the playbook, and with the outlet's subsequent handling of the fallout. One day, I wrote a piece for Politico, a piece. And 100 people at Politico were like, how dare you? Now listen, they can't cancel me over at Politico. I don't work for Politico. I don't care. I didn't write for Politico because I needed Politico's money. And so they can't cancel me. That's not what this is about. What this is about is pressuring editors into never having anybody who's remotely right-wing write for their publications. That is what this is truly about. And I'm not even talking about me. Okay, first of all, the attempt to castigate me, as Politico staffers apparently have been doing, as a white supremacist are patently insane. I mean, totally crazy. As anybody who has ever listened to this show knows, as anybody who's listened to my speeches knows, I've given like full-length, 45-minute dissertations in front of thousands of people about how terrible white supremacy is. I did one at Stanford, I think it was, last year. Okay, so like, this is not a thing. Okay, but it's not just me. I happen to know columnists who are really, really anti-Trump, like so anti-Trump that they piss off mainstream conservatives on a regular basis. One comes to mind. I won't mention his name. He was asked to be a columnist for the Washington Post. And then members of the Washington Post staff realized that he believes that biological men and women exist. He was immediately canceled. Nope, we're not going to allow him to write for the Washington Post anymore. By the way, there are columnists for the Washington Post like Eric Wemple who are like, big publications don't need to give Shapiro a platform. He has a place where you can hear him. I will just note to Eric Wemple of the Washington Post, I wrote for the Washington Post in 2016. I wrote a piece for them in 2016. So you might want to talk to your editors over there, dude. In any case, the Daily Beast staffers were so mad. We sent them a bunch of leftist tears tumblers. They're on back order because we have so many people who want them. We sent them some leftist tears tumblers. I wouldn't want them to get their tears all over their laptops where they are busy journalisming all over the place. According to the Daily Beast, earlier this month, the Beltway news outlet handed over the keys to its signature news product to Shapiro, a talk radio host and pundit who has long been one of the most controversial voices in right-wing media, thanks in part to his incendiary comments about the LGBT community, Muslim, Black Americans, and Jews who support Democratic politicians. The guest appearance, part of a series of guest appearances by political media figures including Chris Hayes and Chuck Todd. They're not controversial, by the way. Chris Hayes not controversial at all. Right? I love how I'm a right-wing firebrand. Chris Hayes he's just a guy. Right? He's just a media figure. Sparked immediate backlash and criticism from many in the media industry, including within Politico's own newsroom. But the resulting response from Politico brass was unsatisfactory to a number of employees. Wow, unsatisfactory to the employees? Wow, terrible. By the way, you know what we call unsatisfactory to the employees here at the Daily Wire? A job. That's what we call it. Because you're getting paid to do things that are unsatisfactory to you nearly every single day. It's called employment, gang. According to multiple political insiders familiar with the situation, the letter to Albritton criticized the decision to publish Shapiro, claiming it had demoralized a substantial portion of the newsroom. Oh, it demoralized you? That's sad. What happened? What happened? You couldn't report on how wonderful Joe Biden's dog is today because you were so depressed that I wrote a piece for you 2 weeks ago? You fragile little babies. Seriously. My goodness. I'm so demoralized. Oh my God. I can't even, every time I start to write, every time I start to do my job, I think of the fact that Shapiro's name appeared in Politico, and I can't. I need the ambulance. During a combative meeting on January 14th, the day of Shapiro's publication, the top editor defended the editorial decision to irate staffers by claiming mischief-making has always been part of Politico's secret sauce. The staff letter, sent 10 days ago to Al Britton, maintained that Matt Kaminsky, who's the editor, had not appropriately apologized for his responses, additionally referencing an email he sent to staff on January 15th, obtained and reviewed by the Daily Beast. By the way, leaking internal memos to the Daily Beast should be a fireable offense, should it not, over at Politico? Maybe you guys ought to get on that. In the email, the top editor expressed regret for his initial response about making mischief, but reiterated that publishing Shapiro was part of his hopes to experiment and mix things up in order to keep Politico vital and vibrant to its readers. In response, the letter's signees asked Al Britton how Shapiro's extensive record of bigotry can be considered vibrant or vital, because that's the way this works. Okay, the way that it works is if you've ever said anything that you regret, or if you've ever said anything that people can interpret wrongly as terrible and horrible and no good and very bad, this means that you must never be allowed to speak ever again, ever in history. I'm glad Politico staffers are so pure. Man, the woke mob, you either join it or they come after you. That's the way that it works over there. Elsewhere in the note to their publisher, the Politico staffers called for a commitment to clarify and improve the outlet's editorial standards, an increase in newsroom diversity. So it's just a demand letter. It's just that these guys are going to hold hostage Politico's image so they can get a bunch of crap that Politico doesn't want to do. A commitment to clarify and improve the outlet's editorial standards, which means we want a veto on what gets printed, just like the New York Times has basically handed over veto power to the pseudo-journalist and fictionalized historian Nicole Hannah-Jones. An increase in newsroom diversity, so they want hiring based on race. An editor's note on Shapiro's edition of Playbook. So they want like a little note at the bottom saying Shapiro's a bigot, but we published him anyway. We're really sad about that, but we're not pulling it. And an internal apology for the management response to staff criticism of publishing Shapiro. Despite the 100-plus signatures to the note, some Politico staffers stressed to the Daily Beast it did not represent the overall mood at the publication. Several of the company's 300 editorial employees said they hadn't even heard about the effort or weren't asked to sign the letter. Others said they were encouraged that Kaminsky and other top editors had been meeting over the past several days with newsroom employees in attempts to avoid blow-ups like the Shapiro saga. Well, I mean, I'm so glad that they've been meeting with the whiniest among them to avoid the blow-ups. Did you know that every like on this video creates one additional leftist tier? Don't ask me why. That's called science. To take advantage of this amazing opportunity, hit the like button.